Cesaro again. Look at the power! You gotta be kidding me! You gotta be kidding me! Cesaro wins the Battle Royal! Oh my God! The Swiss Superman!
The winner of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, Cesaro!
Oh my gosh!
At WrestleMania 30, Cesaro won the first ever Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, dumping the Big Show over the top rope in a moment that was meant to mirror Hogan slamming Andre the Giant. And looking back, this was supposed to be Cesaro's big moment, his ticket to the big leagues, to the main stage, but what happened next? Well, nothing. You see, Cesaro is a one-of-a-kind wrestler that makes other wrestlers jealous. He's got the strength of Hercules, the agility of a cruiserweight, and the technical skills that would make even William Regal blush. But despite all that talent, despite being one of the most gifted performers to ever step foot in a WWE ring, Cesaro never quite reached the heights that many fans and fellow wrestlers thought he would. So, what exactly went wrong? How did a guy with all the tools to be a world champion end up being perpetually stuck in the mid-card? Was it a case of bad booking, backstage politics, or was he simply not that good in the first place? Well, this is Grease from Wrestleology, and today we're diving deep into the bizarre story of Cesaro. It's a tale of constant start and stop pushes, amazing feats of strength, and questionable booking decisions that will make you go, huh, did that really happen? So buckle up and sit tight, because this ride is going to be just as wild as the Cesaro swing. Let's start at the very beginning. Cesaro made his debut back in 2012, coming in hot as the cocky European who looked down on American culture. And right from the start, it was clear that this guy was something special. Within a few months of his debut, he was already the United States champion, easily defeating guys like Santino Marella, R-Truth, Zack Ryder, and even The Miz. But even in those early days, there were signs that WWE didn't quite know what to do with Cesaro. Despite his amazing in-ring skills and his rich indie background, he was strapped with a generic foreign heel gimmick without getting to display any serious character traits that the fans could relate to. Now, Cesaro's first major push, if you want to call it that, came in June 2013 when he joined forces with Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter to form the Real Americans. And for a while there, it seemed like he might be on the verge of breaking through to the next level. Their theme song was a banger, the crowd was vibing with their whole We the People shtick, and of course, Cesaro's jaw-dropping feats of strength, like the time Cesaro swung the Great Khali. Now, while the team would go on to achieve some success, it was nothing remarkable. And then came WrestleMania 30. After losing a tag team elimination match on the pre-show, Swagger and Cesaro would turn on each other and disband their team. But the real surprise came later on during the night when Cesaro won the first ever Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal by last eliminating the Big Show. And for a brief shining moment, it looked like WWE was finally about to pull the trigger. The night after Mania, Cesaro dumped Zeb Coulter, aligned himself with Paul Heyman, and seemed poised for a major push. But then nothing happened. Despite having one of the best managers in the business by his side, Cesaro had zero direction. He lost match after match, was left off pay-per-views, and generally seemed to be going nowhere. By the end of 2014, Cesaro was lost and frustrated, and he wasn't the only one. Fans were starting to notice how badly Cesaro was being misused, and the Cesaro section, you know, those homemade signs that fans would bring to shows, started popping up more and more frequently. But WWE seemed to ignore the fan support. In a now infamous interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin, Vince McMahon claimed that Cesaro lacked the charisma and verbal skills to be a top star, and even went on to suggest that maybe it was his Swiss heritage that was holding him back, because apparently in Vince's mind, being European is a fatal flaw when it comes to connecting with an audience. And on top of that, WWE officials had told Cesaro to stop using the Cesaro swing because it was making him too popular and they didn't want him to be cheered as a heel. I mean, the dude has the looks, he's got the talent, he's getting over with the fans. Why not just turn him face? Make it make sense, Vince. I don't know. Now, despite these setbacks, Cesaro kept pushing forward. In December 2014, Cesaro would form a new tag team with Tyson Kidd. And in reality, these two were basically thrown together because creative had nothing else for them, but man, did they make the most of it. Cesaro and Kidd had an instant chemistry that was off the charts. Their in-ring style meshed perfectly, with Kidd's high-flying abilities complementing Cesaro's power game beautifully. and the fans, they ate it up. Cesaro and Kidd quickly became one of the most popular teams in WWE, putting on clinic after clinic against teams like the New Day and the Usos, and even managed to capture the tag team championships at Fastlane 2015. But just when it seemed like Cesaro might have found his niche, disaster struck. Tyson Kidd suffered a career-ending injury in a dark match against Samoa Joe, effectively ending the team's run before it could really get going. And just like that, Cesaro was back to square one. Now, this is where a smart company would have capitalized on the momentum Cesaro had built as part of this tag team, maybe give him a singles push or at least keep him in meaningful storylines, but nope. Not WWE. Instead, Cesaro was left to flounder in the mid-card once again, having good matches but never really going anywhere. Fast forward to November 2015, and things seem to be looking up for our Swiss friend. He just competed in a tournament for the vacant WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and with former champion Seth Rollins out with injury, the company was looking for fresh faces in the main event scene, and fans were buzzing about the possibility of Cesaro finally getting a shot at the big time. But then, in a cruel twist of fate, Cesaro suffered a torn rotator cuff that would sideline him for over 6 months. It was a devastating blow, not just for Cesaro, but for his fans as well. The Cesaro section had been growing louder and louder, and it seemed like WWE might have been finally ready to listen, but with this injury, all that momentum came to a sudden stop. When Cesaro finally made his return after WrestleMania 32 in 2016, it felt like a fresh start. He came back with a new James Bond-inspired look, complete with a tearaway suit and all. It was cool, it was stylish, and it seemed like maybe, just maybe, this would be the push Cesaro had been waiting for. But once again, WWE had no idea what to do with the Swiss Superman, and he was right back where he started, putting on great matches with no real direction or purpose. And then came the pairing with Sheamus. Now, on paper, this seemed like another random tag team thrown together because creative had nothing else for them. But much like with Tyson Kidd, Cesaro and Sheamus managed to turn it into gold. Their initial Best of 7 series was a masterclass in in-ring storytelling, with each match building on the last and showcasing both men's unique strengths. And when they were forced to team up afterwards, their odd couple dynamic made for some genuinely entertaining television. As the Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus became one of the most dominant tag teams in WWE history. They won the Raw Tag Team Championships 4 times and the SmackDown Tag Team Championships once. They also had great matches with teams like the Hardy Boys, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, and the New Day. But here's the thing, as great as the Bar was, it still felt like WWE was using it as a way to keep Cesaro busy rather than pushing him as a single star. It was like they knew they had this incredible talent on their hands, but they just couldn't figure out what to do with him on his own. And that's really the story of Cesaro's entire WWE career. He was always the guy who could be counted on to have great matches and make his opponents look good, pop the crowd with his feats of strength, but when it came time to pull the trigger on a real push towards the World Championship, WWE always seemed to fumble. And perhaps the most frustrating thing about all this is that everyone, and I mean everyone, seemed to recognize Cesaro's talent except for the people in charge of pushing him. His fellow wrestlers constantly praised him as being one of the best in the world. Fans chanted his name and brought those Cesaro section signs to literally every show, and even John Cena, the face of WWE for over a decade, publicly stated that Cesaro deserved a chance at the top. But it just never happened, and in February 2022, after over a decade with the company, Cesaro was gone. He quietly left the WWE when his contract expired, ending a run that was filled with incredible matches, missed opportunities, and a whole lot of what-ifs. So, what went wrong? How did WWE manage to drop the ball so spectacularly with a talent like Cesaro? Well, there are a few factors at play here. First and foremost, there's the issue of Vince McMahon's perception of Cesaro, who believed that Cesaro lacked the charisma and mic skills to be a top star. Then there's the issue of WWE's booking, where time and time again, Cesaro would gain momentum only to have it ruined by poor creative decisions. Remember when he was getting huge pops for the Cesaro swing and then they suddenly told him to stop doing it? Or how about when they turned him heel right after his face turn got him more over than ever at WrestleMania 30? flirty. And let's not forget the constant stop-start pushes. Cesaro would win a big match or have a standout performance, and then it would seem like this was finally going to be his moment. But then a few weeks later, he'd be jobbing on main event or stuck in a meaningless mid-card feud. And while we could go on blaming the WWE for its poor booking choices, here's where things get really interesting. You see, after leaving WWE, Cesaro, now going by his real name Claudio Castagnoli, made the jump to AEW. He debuted at Forbidden Door 2022, replacing Bryan Danielson in a match against Zack Sabre Jr. and absolutely tearing the house down. He would then go on to join the Blackpool Combat Club, win the Ring of Honor World Championship, and it looked like he was finally going to get the push that he deserved. But fast forward 2 years or so, and where is Claudio now? He's right back in the mid-card, having good matches, but not really going anywhere. He's part of a faction, but he's not the star of it, and he's putting on great performances, but he's not in the main event picture. Sounds familiar? And you know what? It really does make you wonder, was WWE really wrong about Cesaro all along? Or is there something about him that just doesn't quite translate to that top tier main event level? Is he really just a guy who has great matches, as some critics have claimed? Now, don't get me wrong, I still think Cesaro is one of the most talented wrestlers on the planet today. But at this point, you have to ask the question, if two major companies have failed to push him to the moon, is it possible that maybe, just maybe, Cesaro isn't quite the total package we all thought he was? I know it's a tough pill to swallow for Cesaro fans, myself included, but in this business, sometimes the harsh realities are the ones we need to face. Maybe Cesaro really is just a really good hand, someone who can always be counted on for a great match, but not someone who can carry a company as its top star. Or maybe, just maybe, Cesaro is still waiting for that one perfect opportunity, that one moment that will launch him to superstardom. Only time will tell. But what do you guys think? Is Cesaro underutilized in AEW just like he was in WWE? Or are we finally seeing the reality of his position in the wrestling world? Thank you so much for watching, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed.